The town of Eldridge was nestled in a valley surrounded by dense forests and towering mountains, a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary often danced on the fringes of reality. It was a quaint little town, known for its vibrant autumn leaves and the annual harvest festival, but lately it had gained notoriety for something far more peculiar: strange sounds emanating from deep within the earth. It began one crisp October evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the town square. The townsfolk had gathered for the festival, their laughter mingling with the scent of roasted chestnuts and spiced cider. But as the night wore on, a low rumble began to echo through the valley, a sound that seemed to rise from the very bowels of the earth. At first it was dismissed as the wind, or perhaps the distant rumble of thunder. But as the evening progressed, the sound grew louder and more distinct. It was a haunting melody, a series of low, resonant hums that seemed to vibrate in the bones of those who heard it. The next day, the town buzzed with speculation. The local coffee shop, a favored gathering spot, became the epicenter of conversation. Clara, the barista, leaned over the counter, her brow furrowed with concern. "Did you hear it last night? It was like the earth was singing," she said to a group of regulars, her voice tinged with both excitement and fear. "More like wailing," grumbled Old Man Jenkins, his gnarled hands shaking slightly as he sipped his black coffee. "I've lived here my whole life, and I've never heard anything like it. It's unnatural." As the days passed, the sounds persisted, each night bringing a new wave of eerie melodies. Some claimed they could hear voices woven into the hums, whispers that seemed to beckon them closer to the ground. The children, ever curious, began to gather near the old oak tree in the center of town, daring each other to get closer to the source of the noise. They would lie on their stomachs, pressing their ears to the cool earth, trying to decipher the strange symphony playing beneath them. One evening, a group of teenagers decided to investigate. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, they ventured into the woods where the sounds seemed to resonate most strongly. They followed a narrow trail that wound through the trees, the air thick with anticipation. As they reached a clearing, the ground beneath them began to vibrate, and the hum intensified, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. They exchanged nervous glances, half excited, half terrified. "What if it's a cave or something?" Sarah, the most daring of the group, suggested, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Let's dig." With little more than a few sticks in their bare hands, they began to scrape away the leaf-laden soil. The hum grew louder, a pulsating rhythm that seemed to synchronize with their heartbeats. Just as they were about to give up, their fingers scraped against something hard. It was a small, metallic object, covered in dirt and moss. They pulled it free, revealing an ornate compass, its needles spinning wildly, as if searching for something it could never find. "Maybe it's a treasure map!" Jake exclaimed, his voice rising with excitement. But as they examined the compass, they realized it was far older than any treasure map they could imagine. The intricate engravings on its surface told a story of a time long forgotten, and the strange sounds continued to resonate in the air around them, as if urging them to uncover more. Back in town, the adults were less enthusiastic about the sounds. Mayor Thompson called for a town hall meeting, hoping to quell the rising fears that gripped Eldridge. He stood at the front of the room, his hands clasped tightly together, as he addressed the townsfolk gathered before him. "We need to remain calm. These sounds are likely a natural phenomenon. Perhaps it's just the wind passing through the mountains or some geological activity." But the townspeople were not convinced. The sounds had taken on a life of their own, growing in intensity and complexity. Some claimed they could hear rhythmic drumming, while others insisted they heard the cries of ancient spirits. The local historian, Ms. Abernathy, stood up, her voice trembling with excitement. "What if it's a message from the past? The earth has stories to tell, and perhaps it's trying to communicate with us." The meeting ended in a flurry of speculation, with some residents eager to explore the mysteries beneath their feet, while others were determined to ignore the sounds, hoping they would simply fade away. But the hums only grew louder, and soon the entire town could feel the vibrations in their bones. a constant reminder of something hidden below. As the days turned into weeks, the teenagers became obsessed with their discovery. They began to research the history of Eldridge, uncovering tales of ancient tribes that once roamed the land, stories of rituals performed to appease the spirits of the earth. They learned of a legend that spoke of a hidden chamber deep within the mountains, a place where the earth's heartbeat could be heard, a sacred site where the past and present intertwined. One chilly evening, driven by a mixture of curiosity and courage, the group decided to follow the compass. They trekked through the woods, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of leaves. As they climbed higher into the mountains, the air grew colder, and the hums became a melody that seemed to guide them, pulling them closer to their destination. Finally, they reached a cave entrance, shrouded in shadows and draped in ivy. The compass's needle pointed directly inside, its spinning finally settling as they approached. Heart pounding, Sarah led the way, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The cave was vast, its walls glistening with moisture, and the sounds echoed within, a symphony of whispers and tones that made the hairs on their arms stand on end. As they ventured deeper, the passage opened into a grand chamber, illuminated by a soft, ethereal glow. In the center stood a stone altar, adorned with symbols that mirrored those on the compass. The air was thick with energy, and the sounds crescendoed, wrapping around them like a warm embrace. It was as if the earth itself was alive, breathing, and pulsating with a rhythm that resonated in their very souls. In that moment, they understood. The sounds were not merely noise, they were a connection to something greater, a bridge between the past and the present, a reminder of the stories buried beneath their feet. They gathered around the altar, feeling the vibrations beneath their hands, and as they closed their eyes, they could almost hear the voices of those who had come before them, sharing their wisdom and their dreams. Emerging from the cave, the world felt different. The hums continued to resonate in the air, but now they were no longer frightening. They were a song of unity, a reminder of the interconnectedness of all beings. The teenagers returned to Eldridge, eager to share their experience, their eyes alight with wonder. As they recounted their tale, the townsfolk listened, some with skepticism, others with awe. The strange sounds had transformed from a source of fear into a symbol of discovery. Eldridge was no longer just a quaint town. It was a place of mystery, a living tapestry woven with the threads of history and the whispers of the earth. In the months that followed, the sounds continued to echo through the valley, but now they were embraced. The townspeople began to gather at the old oak tree, sharing stories and listening to the melodies that danced through the air. The harvest festival took on a new meaning, becoming a celebration of the earth and its secrets, a tribute to the voices that had called out from the depths. The strange sounds had unraveled a mystery, but more importantly, they had brought the community together, reminding them of the magic that lay just beneath the surface of their everyday lives. Eldridge would never be the same, and in the hearts of its residents, the earth's song would forever resonate, a reminder of the stories waiting to be uncovered and the mysteries still to be explored.